Grab your helmet and tighten your chin strap. This is the Lieutenant Stache podcast. The podcast built for firefighters by firefighters. Leadership, tradition, culture, and the hard truths that don't make it in the textbooks. Let's go to work. Welcome to the Lieutenant Stache podcast. Today we're going to be talking with Mr. Dustin Ford. He's a member of the Dixie Firemanship and a firefighter at South Haven Fire Department. So as we get started, let's get into a little bit about your early career and where you started at in your career and how it's progressed.
All right. Well, man, I started over in Cabot, Arkansas. Went to school over there. Saw the guys at the fire department. They were all the football players that were older than me, and so I just kind of fell in with that, and came back to Mississippi, where I'm originally from, and didn't really know much. I hit the Mississippi state line, and I saw South Haven and Horn Lake. I applied at both of them, and South Haven hired me. So got hired here in 2006, and man, it's been a heck of a ride. I was the training officer here for 6.5 years, so I worked in fire admin for a little while, so I got to see both sides of the coin. That was a very rewarding job. It could be very, very frustrating for anybody that's wanting to be a training officer, but like I said, it's very, very rewarding. I'm on the Mississippi State Task Force. I've been a volunteer fireman for a long time, and so I've taught career and I've taught volunteer fireman, and I'm telling you, I've just enjoyed it. I've had a good run, man.
So as far as your beginning, you said you saw the firemen in Cabot, I guess, which Cabot's just south or north of Little Rock, right? I'm trying to think.
It is,
or Hot Springs. It's just north of Hot Springs, ain't
it? It is just a little bit. It's basically a suburb of Little Rock on the east side. So
I knew I'd been up there. I worked for Roco Rescue part time, and we had gone up there to the coal energy plant right there in Red Rock, and so I'd been all through Little Rock and all that. But you saw all these firemen from the football team, and you decided to become a fireman. Was it an inspiration as a kid, or did it just kind of come after high school?
Man, it just kind of came through high school, and honestly, as a kid, I was supposed to grow up to be a candy salesman. That's what my grandfather was, and I was supposed to fall into that. And man, I took a different path. Something else that got me excited about the fire department is a buddy of mine was a volunteer fireman. So we all went to school together, and man, we were just kind of hanging out at his house, and this weird, loud noise went off. He's like, "Come on, come on, come on!" I was like, "Where are we going?" We jump in his truck, and I mean, we're flying. Go to this house fire, and I was just amazed. So yeah. I was hooked at that point.
And so you started out South Haven, I'm assuming from a private mate. How long did it take you to make lieutenant captain over there? Or how's y'all's rank structure? I don't know quite y'all's rank structure.
So our rank structure here, if you're uncertified, you're a firefighter 1. If you're certified, you're a firefighter 2. After a certain amount of time, you can take a test to be an out-of-rank driver, which for us is a firefighter 3. Okay. From there, you go to driver. From driver, you can go to lieutenant, captain, battalion chief, that kind of stuff. Man, so I am currently a firefighter 3. I went from firefighter 3 to City Hall as a training officer here. Yeah, it was it was drinking from the fire hose at that point, and I'm back here as a firefighter 3 now. So.
Wow. Okay. So y'all, and a lieutenant is over a truck. Is that how that works?
Yes, sir. The lieutenant is an officer. We've got lieutenants on every engine and every truck. We have 5 engine companies and 2 truck companies.
Okay. And what is a captain for y'all? Is that kind of like a battalion chief or district chief?
Yes, sir. We've got 2 of them. We've got if you take the job as battalion, you start as a captain. Okay. Your first 2 years, you're a captain, and after that, you become a battalion chief. And we have 2 of those.
I got you. Okay.
2 of those per shift.
I'm trying to kind of compare to the departments I've worked for. I work for Clinton Fire and Jackson Fire, so we have on both departments is firefighter 1 is before training, firefighter 2 after training, then you make RDO, and then after RDO, lieutenant for a driver for us, and then captain is over a truck, and then district chiefs or the division chiefs. So, but then as you progress, so you went from firefighter 3 to training officer. So, kind of tell me about that. Like, how did you even make the position as a training officer? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people mad coming from you got captains, lieutenants, and everybody else ahead of you, and then you're automatically all the way up at City Hall as a firefighter 3.
Man, I tell you, it's just one of those things where I'd been teaching volunteers. The job came open, and I was like, well, I mean, like, I don't have a snowball's chance here, but like, we're gonna give it the good old college try. And man, I got the email, got the call, and I was floored. So they told me, hey, this is when you'll come to City Hall. Came to City Hall and learned a whole different side and aspect to the fire service. So it
Let's
was
talk a little bit about
very,
that
very
part. I
different.
mean, you said it was very different. And I mean, obviously, you're going from a 24 on to 48 off or whatever your shift schedule is. And now you're 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So, was that one of the biggest adjustments is swapping schedules to where you no longer have that every other or those 2 days off and now you got 2 days off, period?
Right, which we don't work the 24/48. We actually work the Memphis schedule, which is a 3 out of
Okay.
5 and off 4. But either way, yeah, 8 to 5 is a drastic life change for that. Um, you're coming here every day. You're dealing with some kind of different problem other than being a fireman. And I'm gonna tell you right now, an 8 hour day flies. You feel like you're there for about 2 hours, and you have 4,000 things to do. But I tell you something else that was really, really weird, and it took some time getting used to. At the fire station, you're with the guys, and there's always some kind of little joke or some kind of little BS. It's always kind of an inside thing. Well, when you go by the fire station as an administrational guy, the guys know you, the guys talk to
Right.
you, you hang out, but you'll hear them say something, and you work for the fire department and at the fire department, but you don't feel like a fireman because you're not
Right.
there in the stations day to day with the guys. That to me was one of the bigger changes.
So you kind of lost a little bit of that camaraderie, even though they knew you as a firefighter 3. You had that kind of, or not really representation, but that kind of bonding with them. But then once you got that white shirt, they're like, "Hey, you got to separate between us now a little bit and be a little bit more professional when you come around." And they're a little bit more uptight and that kind of stuff.
My white shirt was more of a blend between white and dark blue. I guess mine was kind of baby blue because I was still one of the guys.
You're
I
right.
never, I never, I was the most admin ever. Um, but it's just the day to day things, the stuff you talk about with your guys. Like when you're not there every day, it's just different. It's kind of
Now,
like working. It's kind of like working a swap day. You're still at the same station and you're still with the same
right,
crew, with a different crew of guys, and you're not like in that clique.
right. Uh, so I guess coming from a training officer's perspective, I guess let's talk about like the importance now that you've worked both sides of going to conferences, going to um, outside of like the state and fire academy, like finding those different niches, and then it kind of lead us into the organization that you became a part of after that.
Um, so yeah, when you go to City Hall, like you're talking about doing different things, you you would think like, man, fighting fire response. This is all. Mm-mm. You are thrown into a different category of things that you need to learn about. Um, like, hey, we need to get better tools. Well, cool. What are the purchasing laws to get these better tools?
Right.
That way you don't get yourself in trouble. that's kind of the change that you do there. We as firemen, we're like, man, we need this, we want this. Like for us, we put in for it. We send an email with the link, prices, all this, and then we expect it to just happen right then. That's
New
just
York
not
has
how.
it. Why not?
Exactly. They went and bought it. Why can't we buy it? Well, your state purchasing laws, and those are different states, or even if it's the same state, how you go about it. You're different. Your cities have different rules and regs, and your state has laws, and they're pretty strict. I mean, like our state's going after Brett Favre. Come on.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it also has a little bit to do with your city and the capital budget. I mean, I've seen multiple departments where, on the coast, I heard, it was Florida. I was listening to a podcast from one of the chiefs from Florida, and he said, as long as we have high rises, we have the funding to do what we want. And he was like, I can be picky on who I hire because we have enough funding that we're not hurting for people. We pay our guys good enough. We can send them to classes. We can do all this and that. But then you come to, let's say, Jackson, Mississippi right now. I mean, where we don't have necessarily the funding. A lot of the businesses have left. The town's kind of going down. And so it's taking everything they have to keep the staff that we have right now. And it puts cities in a different kind of budget. I mean, y'all are fortunate up there, up north right now, that y'all's businesses are kind of booming right now. I mean, y'all got Memphis, and everybody's kind of trying to get away from Memphis. So they're coming to y'all's outlier cities right there on North Mississippi end. And I've noticed, I know when I went through South Haven last time, y'all had that big Coliseum now and several other things.
Yeah, sure. We have a very, very good tax base here. And it's like you said, with like Jackson, they've had some city infrastructure problems, and every city does. It's the amount of businesses that you have, and the tax base is how it's going to dictate their priorities. Our city takes a big priority on fire and EMS and police, so we've been very, very fortunate there.
So, kind of moving into a little bit of what we're going to talk about a little bit more today, and Dixie Firemanship. So, how did Dixie Firemanship even come around? Like, was it something that you started as a firefighter too, or how did y'all come together and decide to start it?
Man, so Dixie Firemanship was basically invented by about three guys. One of them was Michael Taylor of Corinth. The other is Andrew Pristack and Jake Chappell. Now, these guys met at a conference. I think it was the Firemanship conference. And they just got to talking and thought that it'd be a really good idea to get a group of guys of like-minded firemen together to teach some of the stuff. And I'll tell you this, Dixie Firemanship, we're thieves. We stole every bit of this information that we put out. Like, we didn't invent any of it. We go to conferences, we go to classes, we network with other people, and we learn stuff, and we bring that back to our state. So, but that all started, they got to talking, I think it was in 2016, and I think January 2017 was when they had their very first class in Corinth, Mississippi. So,
and that was training at the Crossroads, or what, had it not got that name yet?
I don't think it had that name yet, but it was getting there. So
I joined the fire service back in 2014. And there wasn't really anything like that. But I left the fire service for a little while and came back in 18 to work at Clinton Fire. And I remember I went to the State Fire Academy, and everybody was talking about training at the Crossroads. I was like, well, what is training at the Crossroads? I've never heard of it. And I was in my recruit class, we had the twins from Corinth. I don't know if you know Chrissy and Everett and them.
Left and right Twix. Yep,
left and right Twix. And when they were like, oh man, you got to come. And Josh, I can't think of Josh's last name right now from Tupelo.
Friedrich.
He was like, man, it's an awesome conference. And so I'd heard about several of these folks, and then I've met Parker Novlin over the years. I've met Matt Hinkle, obviously going through the academy, and everybody's talking about Dixie Firemanship, and we don't have much of that. I mean, I know eventually Dixie Firemanship quit doing the training at the crossroads, and Old South Fulls kind of took over to keep that kind of memory going and keep the tradition going. But we don't really have too many firefighter conferences that are strictly about training and getting the guys together. And that's one of the things that I really think Mississippi needs to get better about is we got to get our firemen different tactics. We're still working on 1960s tactics for the most part.
Absolutely. You're right. We do need to get people together a lot more, because when you get people together, you learn by good and bad. Like, hey, man, we've had this idea. We thought this. And you may come across somebody like, man, look, we tried that. Sounds good, but it wasn't practical. It didn't work out. So we tried it this way. And so you may find a better way that way.
And one thing I found interesting you said is y'all are a bunch of thieves, but it's not really thieving because, to me, you can't teach a class without robbing from a bunch of people. Because I said this in a CMC interview when I interviewed Doug McElmurray from CMC, but to me, if I'm going to teach a rope class that I want to design for my department, I should take at least 5 different classes. I should take one from CMC. I should take one from Roco Rescue. I should take one from R&R. All these different companies in the State Fire Academy, and kind of see what I think should come or is more practical to my area. Like, do I think we should do a Sprat-based rope rescue, or do I think we should kind of have a mixture of all these folks, because you learn so much from every class. And so I don't really see it thieving. I see it as more of doing your due diligence to see what is applicable to your area and what can you truly learn. Because you may have something that you learned at this one specific conference, but everything else was pretty much the same way you did stuff back home. And then you see another tactic of what's going on, and then you're like, that's a little bit better tactic, but we're going to show both of these tactics just to kind of show a stepping stone of how this works.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It is, like you said, 5 different classes at minimum. Not only that, and I love our State Fire Academy, but you need to get out. Okay. Mississippi does some really good stuff. Our State Fire Academy is a very good academy, but get out. Okay. Find other places. Sure, you can go take a hazmat tech class, but where do they specialize in that at?
Right. Tees or
rope pressure,
yeah,
or CertC or somewhere like that. Yeah. Like whether it be ground ladders, nozzles, I don't care what it is. Go somewhere where they do that a lot and learn from them.
And I think one of the biggest evolving problems right now in Mississippi is, like I said, we're backed up on the 1960 standards. But in what direction do we go? I mean, and you're like, well, we're going to be like FDNY. Okay, well, do we have the structures like FDNY? Like, are we fighting the same fires that FDNY is fighting, where they're fighting a multi-story structure just about 9 out of 10 times? What is your population built upon, and what are the necessities of your population? Are y'all going to fight fires like Jackson, where we fight a crap ton of shotgun houses that are old and dilapidated? Probably not, because y'all are in a little bit newer city as far as your population. That is pretty, I don't want to say high end, but y'all have a lot more newer houses being built versus the old houses. So it's all very dependent on your area of population and your area of residential structures.
Right. Well, and so like you said about the FDNY, we are not the FDNY. We don't have the high rises. We don't have the manpower. We don't have any of that. So I think the best thing that you can do is tailor it to your area. Okay. If I'm going to throw 50 firemen at a fire, that's great. But if I don't have 50 firemen, that's not the tactic that I need. Right. We have anywhere from 1,000 square foot houses to 5,000 square foot houses here. So our tactics have had to vary a lot. Now we are pretty blessed. We send 2 engines and a truck to everything bare minimum, and we are at full staffing 4 on an engine and 4 on a truck.
That's awesome. Yeah. So at Clinton, we send first response is two engines, a truck, and then second, we're usually going to get that third engine in there for an additional pumper 9 out of 10 times if we don't dump the city of 4 engines in the truck. But then in Jackson, we start off with 3 engines, 3 engines, a rescue, and a ladder truck. Now, just about both departments, we're running 3-man truck engines with 2-man ladders. So you take that as it may. But I will say, like, it was a big difference for me going to a house fire where you knew you dumped your whole city if you had that amount of people on one call. To now, if we're on a big fire in Jackson, we have 22 stations. I think it's 25 trucks, total apparatuses available in the city. So it ain't nothing for me to get another engine out there or another rescue company or another truck company. I mean, I've been on a fire where we've had full second alarms where we've had 6 engine companies and 2 rescues and 2 ladder trucks, and then you're tripping over each other, you know? So it's a big difference in tactics, like you said. And you know that
Well,
you have
like
somebody that. Go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
So, and you know, like when there's another house fire that rings out, you're not having to pull resources from that one fire to go to the next. You've got plenty of other resources to kind of surround.
Yes, sir. Going back to like my origins. Now, this has been 20 years ago, and they have definitely improved since then. But like Cabot, when I started in Cabot, we had 3 engines and an old ladder truck, and we ran 2-man engine companies. So we had 7 people on duty a day between 3 stations, and so we dumped the city. My job as the backseat riding fireman at Station 4 there was to get in the 1972 Ward LaFrance 100-foot platform that had a top speed of 42 miles an hour, and the engine had to follow me just in case it broke down so they could grab me. I mean, which they are now a Class 1 fire department. They have gone way better than that. But when I came here to sending 2 engines, a truck, and they had more people on 2 pieces of equipment than we did in the whole city. And the wild thing is, like, if you're at a different station and it's not in your territory or your second to, sitting in the station listening to other people at a fire, I'm just like, shouldn't we be going to this? No, it's not your territory. So it was a huge culture change there.
And I guess when it comes to culture, you just brought up one of my favorite things to talk about. I love when it comes to firefighters and how the culture's changed over the years. But everybody I met in South Haven. I think Josh Miles used to work for y'all, didn't he? Was Josh Miles there? No, he must. Or Ryan McKendry. Olive Branch. Okay. But everybody I've ever met through all the classes I've taken at the academy, they're all seem pretty aggressive firemen. I mean, they seem like they're kind of eat up with the culture of training, and they're eat up with doing the job. And you know, that's one thing I've noticed a lot in recent years is that's a hard trait to find a full department that's pretty much eat up with the job every day. Because I see a lot being at Jackson and being at different. I've gone to a bunch of different departments over the state, and you got some of those aggressive people, and then you got some of those that are just like, all right, I'm on my retirement years and I'm trying not to get hurt.
Right. You've got firemen and you got people who work at the fire department.
100%. And so it kind of goes back to Dixie Firemanship with Michael Taylor and them. Michael Taylor and them saw a need to get training, and they wanted to not only better themselves, but they wanted to better their local community and local group of firemen. And it kind of really, I don't think if we wouldn't have had Dixie Firemanship, we wouldn't have had the Old South Fools. We wouldn't have had Coastal Magnolia and Mayhem Fools. None of these other organizations would ever started because it wasn't really talked about. I mean, you had 3 conferences a year. You had the Chiefs Conference, the Firefighter Conference, and the Instructor Conference.
Yes, sir.
And that was it. Like, there was, other than back when we were all young in the fire service, we had the Fireman Combat Challenge come to town. And I mean, but that ain't happened since 2000. I think it was about 13 or 14. I mean,
But what does the combat challenge teach you?
right. It doesn't teach you, but that was the only firefighter related thing outside of a conference that we had in Mississippi to get firemen together from all across the state. So Michael Taylor and them kind of were the pioneers for Mississippi to start training, in my whole belief. And so, where has Dixie Firemanship now gone? Like, what are y'all doing now? Are y'all still out there, still getting in there?
So it has slowed down on the being out there just a little bit. You know, we haven't gone away. We've just kind of in hibernation right now, just due to life and stuff like that. Dixie Firemanship is still very, very active at State Fire Academy, teaching our engine company operations and our truck company operations classes down there. I say we teach it. We assist the State Fire Academy in teaching that. Um, a lot of these guys have, gone into administrational positions, and it's harder to do that while you're in those positions. Where I was a little lucky, like I'm not married, I don't have kids. Where they have families, they like I take a vacation and go teach a training at the crossroads. Uh, these guys take vacation; they're having to go to family stuff.
Right.
So I was very, very fortunate there.
So the engine company and ladder company classes, I've heard a lot about them. My captain just took engine company when I was taking vehicle education. He was in the engine company, and he called me out on some stuff. And he's like, "Man, I've seen your helmet cams, and I know the tactics you get to do, and some of the stuff you talk about, and that ain't what they taught us in engine company." And and it cracks me up because I talked to Michael a good bit when I'm at the academy. I'm like, hey man, I just want to bounce off some stuff with you or whatever. He's like, but my captain came back. He said, man, you got to start going in on your knees. I said, well, why is that? I said, there's a time and place. I said, I agree that exhaust path coming out, you need to get lower, but I look at the fact that I can get to it faster on my feet. And he's like, well, there's ways you can move the hose really fast on your knees. And I'm like, I understand that. It's safer.
Well, and so things that we have helped push down there, and there have even been changes in not just the engine and truck classes, but now they're even teaching some of this stuff in your rookie classes. Talking about being on your knees, we don't baby crawl. Right? We quit
Right.
crawling as babies because we figured out it sucked. Right? There's much better ways to move around. So we teach the tripod positioning.
Right.
Well, that is staying low, and that's being down on a knee. And yes, you can advance hose lines with it, but like I said, yes, you can move faster being on your feet. And I'm not really worried about the temperature as much, but if I'm standing up in that heat, smoke, and gas, what I can see is my feet, but I probably can't see a victim's feet that's over to the side. I need to stay low that way I can, because that's what I'm there for. I'm there for them. So.
And I 100% agree. We're fortunate that we send primary attack in, followed right behind the primary search. So we have two teams working at once, and usually if I'm first due, we're getting into the seed. But he kind of did open my eyes to, the tripod position, and he was showing me how to move the hose, and it was a pretty interesting method to me because like you said, we were all used to when we got in the rookie class to crawling on our hands and knees and baby crawling through it, and there was no searching, and you could search, but it's not a whole lot of search. So learning the different tactics have definitely brought a lot of awareness to my level of different things. But one thing the worst thing he said, and that little scorpion thing you do, or cobra thing is what I call it. He said, that does absolutely no good. I said, I agree with you 100%. It doesn't. But if they're whooping my butt with a 2.5, I said, it's getting scorpion or cobra. And I said, I'm not going to put the actual flop over, but I'm going to at least S it to where I can hold it and use my body weight on them. But it is one of those things, though, that y'all are finally bringing a shift in culture. Y'all are trying to get some of us bad habit people to learn the actual benefactors of doing the tripod crawl or the or tripod stance and the making sure you have the right nozzle for the job, whether it be smooth bore or combination nozzle. And one thing I really found interesting is he told me about the air movement, and that's one thing I've always wondered about. When you have a smooth bore versus a fog, and now this new hens nozzle, it was kind of funny. And hopefully the hens guy don't get mad at me, but he called me the week after I talked to my buddy about it, and was like, "Hey, you still want to try out this hens nozzle?" I was like, "Yeah, but I've got some questions." I was like, "So what about air movement? How's it hens nozzle do in air movement?" And he's like, "Oh, it don't move too much air." And I was like,
I'm not a fan of the chicken nozzle. All right, the hen is not my thing. Um, I think it moves more air than a smooth bore, but it does move less air than a fog nozzle. I'll give him that. But I'm not a fan of it, man. I'm just not.
Which we're gonna try them out. We're gonna see how our volunteer department down here in Fernwood likes it. And just to me, you need that education though. You need to mess with different nozzles for different tactics. If you're gonna be more of an exterior, that hens nozzle may not even bother you whatsoever. If you're more of a hit it hard from the yard. Me personally, I like to go as deep as I can and then get my way out. But
Yeah. Well, and so as far as that goes, as far as like nozzle selection and weapon selection for fighting fires, if you're unsure how these things operate, call a salesman and don't listen to them. You come show me. You come show me why your nozzle or your attack package is better than Elkhart or Task Force or Hen or any of that. Come show me. I don't want to hear about it. I want you to show me.
100%, and that's what the salesman called me. And he was like, "I saw you were interested in the nozzles," and I was like, "Yeah, I just want to see what they do. Like, I won't play with them. I want to get my own opinion versus what nozzles we're currently running, um, and compare them." I remember it was about 5 years ago. I saw the first low pressure, high volume nozzles, and those things were. It blew my mind how much water they were truly moving. Uh, is that y'all?
I think it's a unit. We have an Amazon station too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Go right
but
ahead.
it was truly amazing to me how much volume those nozzles moved. And I was like, do you really need that much water in a house fire? I can see it on the industrial side. Like industrial side, you got a lot more fuel, and you're trying to put a lot more water to maybe dilute the solution or whatever. But are they beneficial in the house fires? And that's something you got to figure out. You got to decide on your department.
Well, some of this is going to sound very cliche-ish and stuff, but it's like if me and you are going to go into a gunfight. Do I want to take just enough gun to win, or do I want to take enough gun to dominate?
Right.
And as far as water in a house fire, this is the
You
part
never
that's
have
going to
too
sound.
much.
Well, I'm going to float your couch out the front door
Right.
because you can dry anything out, but you can't unburn anything. So I want to
100%.
make sure that I put your fire out, make sure your atmosphere is tenable, especially if there's a victim inside, and that way I can get them out. I'm buying them time.
So when it came to putting these conferences or putting Dixie Firemanship together, who were some of y'all's biggest um, mentors, I guess, in developing the Dixie Firemanship thing? LLC.
Man, so as far as that goes, we have taken stuff. We've gone to a bunch of conferences, a bunch of classes, FDICs, all your conferences like that, and we have learned stuff from people like Brian Brush, um, Kurt Isaacson, um, even some local guys like Clay McGee, and I will butcher OJ's last name, so I'm not going to try
Yeah, I
it.
know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, like with Magic City, and so your oath keepers, your oh, I'm blanking on his name. Who's the guy from was it Brothers in Battle? What's his name? Justin.
I was thinking of. I can't think of that. There's another guy that's really popular right now with a lot of what he's teaching. Starts with a
He was,
B. He does one bad tour.
man, I can't think of his name.
Drawing blank. Yeah,
Yeah, Kyle
and,
Romagus. He's put a bunch of stuff out there.
yeah.
So
So y'all kind of
there's a
developed
lot.
your
I
own.
mean, there are a lot of good people out there, and we have just taken stuff from them, things that we have learned, and come back. We've practiced them. We've put them in repetition. Um, that is something that is extremely important if you're going to show somebody something. Don't go look at something. Don't go watch a YouTube video and say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. No, 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 no. Get out there and do it until you don't fail at it. Because if you half-ass this and you show somebody something bad, you're going to look like an idiot, and the message that you're trying to convey is not going to be there.
And you're 100% correct there. I remember, like, I started out with a AAA. A lot of people have always done just a flat lay or the Minuteman or whatever they chose. But I started out on AAA, and the first time I ever tried to put up a AAA, I looked like a complete dum dum. And then I remember there when I came to Clinton, they were all flat lays. They just flat laid it in there. And I was like, why don't we try the AAA? Well, it's too hard to learn. Well, at the time, it's like, well, we could kind of per apparatus, if we all get together as a crews on that apparatus, we can kind of change it and see how y'all like it. And I remember they're like, well, what's the point in having a AAA? Well, at the time, we did our front jump line in the AAA, and I know there's different. I've done a scorpion lay on a front jump line. I've done different lays, but at this particular time, me and my lieutenant had talked to the other crews, and we're like, let's try AAA and let's just see how y'all like it. And we put it together, and I got out of the truck as a firefighter. By the time I got it stretched out, it was like, I can't remember the exact time, but it was ridiculously fast for a front jump line. And he had the truck and pump, and I think it was an overall less than 10 to 20-second time, like from us hopping off the truck. And we videoed it, and we showed the rest of the crews, and they're like, okay, that's a little bit of a significant change and could potentially be awesome. So we showed them how to do it. Me and my lieutenant at the time came up on our off shifts and showed them how to load it, how to deploy it, the whole 9 yards. And so we adopted that for a little bit on that apparatus. That apparatus has now changed crews, and I think they're back to the flat lay. But there's so many different lays, and even the Minuteman. I had never really played with the Minuteman, but when Hollis went to the class with y'all over at Engine Company, he's like, man, you got to check out this Minuteman. And I think it's an awesome lay. I think it'd be even better if you were pulling from the rear bed. Like, I think that's where, that's one thing I was listening to not too long on a podcast is they're like, we don't really use cross lays anymore because there's too many houses of different sizes. And why take 200 foot and have to add a hose when you can just go to the back and have 800 foot already connected, and you just break the couple and throw it on the back of your truck, and now you've got as much line as you could possibly need. And with that Minuteman, it looks like it'd be perfect for going to that front door once you've laid out that hose or stretched up however much you need. And so there is a bunch of different, but can you go to a class like Engine Company Operations and then be like, all right, we're going to adopt this as our new hose? Like, no, you got to kind of do a whole transition period of training everybody. Just because you like it, now you got to teach all of us how to deploy it, how it works best, and all that.
Right. So we need to get you in Engine Company Ops. We got to get you in there. So as far as that goes, yes, when you go to Engine Company Ops, you're going to learn some different varieties of things. You're going to learn the Minuteman. You're going to learn bundles, bundle drop, V-split. But you still have to go back and apply it to your territory and your needs.
Right.
If you have, like you said, Jackson, you have the shotgun houses, and let's just say they're a 40 to 50 foot off the road. AAA may be perfect for you. Here in South Haven, we run AAA. I went there, and when I took Engine Company the first time, I came back like, man, we need to do Minuteman. We need to do Minuteman. Nope, we're not doing it. We're not changing it. So as a training officer, I figured out if we're going to do AAA, we need to be good at it.
Right.
I need to know how to load it perfectly. I need to know how to deploy it. I need to know how to do it not fast, but proficiently. If you do
Right.
something proficient, some speed comes with it. So when I go down there and I teach engine company, I still show AAA. I show the 2 ways to deploy it because of course, this is a made up statistic, but about 90% of this state runs AAA. And if you run AAA, hey, that's great. And I hope it works for your territory. If you run AAA, instead of bitching about how we should run Minuteman, get good at AAA.
Right.
You know,
And engine
AAA is
companies,
not for everything. It's
right.
not for your 400-foot offset garden style apartments. If you have those in your territory, you need to have a load for that.
Right.
If you have, like you said, your shotgun houses that are 40, 50 foot off the road, you can do that AAA all day. Have the load that fits your territory and your need, not just because it was something cool and flashy you saw in class.
And I spent my whole first part of my career doing tech rescue classes. I love tech rescue. I'm big into rope rescue and confined space. That's what I enjoyed. I like the hazmat. I'm one of those nerdy people that took hazmat chemistry tech. Like that. That is how much I enjoy tech rescue. But
Hazmat for nerds that like danger.
uh, but when I transitioned this year, so I finished up about 90% of my tech rescue classes I can take at the academy, and so this year I started transitioning over to the firemanship side. Um, I took my first really. It's not really a firemanship class, but to me it is, which was first this year. So it's kind of splitting that line between tech rescue and firemanship. So next year is I'm headed more toward the firemanship side, and I'm going to start trying to take engine company and truck company and all those classes, and that's my next goal. But you kind of find your niche in the fire service, and you kind of grab that, and that becomes your baby for a while. And it's not necessarily the best thing because you do need to kind of stay balanced, in my opinion. But I really just dug deep into tech rescue, and it's paid off for me in my career. It really has. I went to Jackson about 2 years ago now, and I started on at Engine 12, hottest fire truck in the city as far as fires. Like we were ripping 2 to 3 a day. I mean, it wasn't nothing to run 3 in one night. You would load up on one, get right back to the station, get your truck loaded with water, and then you were headed right back out to the next fire. I mean, it was a great time to me. I loved it. I mean, fighting fire like that was completely amazing to me, and getting to go in and just seeing all that fire. But I made it there for about 3 months till they found out my certifications in tech rescue, and when they found that out, they wanted to see how I knew rope or whatever, and so they called me down to rope rescue class they were doing for the task force, and then I ended up teaching in it. And then I was asked to teach from then forward. I've taught the state task force. Where are we? Task Force 2, I think. Let's see, or Task Force 1. Task Force 1,
Y'all
the
are
State
Task
Fire
Force 2.
Academy. Yeah, I'm Task Force 2 with Jeff Franks and all of them. But I taught the rope rescue refresher and the confined space refresher last year. Like that's how much I enjoyed it. But so they pulled me down to Rescue 1, and I will say, I don't know if you've ever met him. You probably have. Steve Woods from Jackson Fire Department had this vision of turning Rescue 1 into the Special Operations Unit. That was his vision when he made Special Operations Captain, now Chief. And I will say that man is trying his best to make us the best possible special operations rescue in the state. He is all about getting his guys trained. He's been reaching out to people like Exxon Mobil to do their class, and like we did CMARIT. I mean, we're doing classes once a month on how to become a better rescue. And I think that's one thing that Mississippi kind of lacks in my opinion, is their heavy rescues. We don't see them. You don't see much of them. They kind of combine that between the truck company and the engine company, and they're like, "Oh, y'all can kind of work together to make that heavy rescue."
Right.
But Steve Woods has done really well in that. But to get off that kind of soapbox and tie it back into where we were, is me and my captain the other day were like, well, what should a rescue do on a fire? All right. So an engine company is supposed to be primary attack, primary engine is, and then secondary engine is supposed to be water supply and then assist with primary attack, and third engine, same thing. But what should a rescue do? And we asked them, we're like, should a rescue always be necessarily RIT team? And in my opinion, the first two rescues shouldn't. That first two rescues should be your primary search team and the one going in after victims. So I was like, well, who should be RIT team? And now I'm a very split guy on RIT. I will let you know that because I know 70% of all maydays resulted in self-rescue. And then 20% were done by interior crews already there. And then 10% is done by RIT team. And while I don't think that you shouldn't have importance on RIT team, it should really, to me, it should be a second due rescue. I think you should dispatch 2 rescues to every fire scene and let that second due rescue kind of do it. That way, your first rescue is still on that victim search. Then it came to training, and we were like, what training have we really done outside of rookie class for searching? Like, and I remember when I went through rookie class, I used to tell you could take a Halligan in there and search for people. Then we learned that, hey, that's not a good idea because you'll drive that spike right through the head of a patient, or you'll hit that patient, give them a concussion. That was one thing that I've seen and that I've been trying to develop. And I kind of watch and listen to a bunch of different people. Like, what should a RIT team do? And I was going to do a TikTok live this past week with a bunch of guys from all across the country about what their opinions were. You know, what is a RIT team? When should a RIT team be engaged and all that? But I also want to develop a class for my department of how should we train as a RIT team? How should we train as a search company? Like, do a rescue-based search and rescue class or search and RIT class, and kind of figure out what would work best for my area.
Well, what I have seen, especially for the state of Mississippi, and it's here. I'm on our rescue here, but our rescue here is a pumper.
Right.
So, talk about your rescue should be your search. What if your rescue engine is your first due?
Right.
So unless you run a dedicated rescue, like our neighbors to the north, they have 3 rescue companies, and that's what they do. For us, especially with Mississippi and short staffing, you're a little bit of everything. So
right.
I don't think you can just say, hey, our rescue companies are going to be rescue. I think you're going to have to be well-rounded as a department to do so, and depending on your staffing. A lot of people say, I don't have the staffing to put 2 people out in the yard to sit there as a RIT. They can't just stand there. They don't have to just stand there. They can be, softening doors and windows. They can be, gathering tools, helping out, throwing ladders, this and that, just as long as they kind of stick together and they're still ready. So,
right.
But as far as the rescue, this depends on whether you're talking about firefighter rescue solely or victim rescue. The best way to kind of suss that out, especially with victim rescue, is to use like the firefighter rescue survey and do rescue by numbers. So I know that when I first started teaching with Dixie, we were doing forcible entry and stuff, and it was a 10% search. Well, those numbers have changed over the years, but we've always kept it and called it a 10% search. 10% of victims found within 6 feet of exterior doors and windows.
Right.
You take those numbers and you continue to you have to keep up with them, but apply those to where you need to be searching, where your rescue should be going, and are they due to lack of air? Are they due to confinement, collapse? What tools do I need to bring with me to affect these rescues and make them correct? So that's where I would stick with it.
And I agree 100%. I mean, we still teach the 10% rule everywhere we get a chance. It's a very important one, and we are set up kind of similar with our rescues. They're still a pumper. So if it's in their first two district, you're completely 100% correct. Well, now that rescue is now the primary attack. But my solution for like the smaller department I work for, Clinton's were, like I said, a 4-station department. I was like, make your second and third dude lieutenant dress out for RIT. And you can do the same thing in Jackson. Second and third dude, once they catch the plug, have them dress out. And then they can still, like you said, grab ground ladders. They can grab tools, whatever. But your second and third dude lieutenant, you weren't really counting on them going in. But now you have somebody that is available to do RIT. And they should all be there within 5 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
So
Seems like a pretty good plan.
But I think, hopefully Dixie Firemanship will come back around a little bit more in the presence. But are y'all still available if somebody calls and asks for individual class? Like if a department wanted to call and get y'all to come out there?
Yes, sir. The fellow to call, his name is Michael Taylor. He's basically our den mother, and he runs the thing, finding out what you need, what your department's need is. I mean, are you needing ventilation training, forcible entry training, search training, hose line training, and then we get our guys that are either local or that specialize in that, and send them to your department, and he works out all the technical stuff. So that's actually how I became part of Dixie Firemanship. Is when I became the training officer here at South Haven. Man, I was 32 years old of a department of 130 people, and literally a week or two after I became it, they had the training chiefs conference in Oxford. So I was like, man, I'm going to go and I'll figure this out. I went there and they talked about responder cancer and washing your hoods and responder Spanish, and they did raffle tickets for T-shirts and stuff. And I was like, what am I doing? What have I gotten myself into? I was like, shit, where do I go from here? So I started looking around. I was like, man, let's see what we need. Something we hadn't done was forcible entry. So I looked up Search and Destroy handbook by Sean Wilson. And if you read the front page or the first page of it, you're going to be hooked. But I got to looking through there, and there was all these big names, and I saw Michael Taylor, Corinth, Mississippi, and he had a few pages in there. So I called, and is this guy real? Oh yeah, he'll be here tomorrow. Just call back and talk to him. And I had him come to South Haven and teach all 3 shifts in 3 days. And so we would send 2 companies. We had 4 engines at the time and 2 trucks. So we send 2 companies at a time out to the training center. So it was 3 classes a day for 3 days. And I went out there and I assisted him doing that and learned a lot. And that's how we met, and that's how it all got started, is by reaching out and having him come to our department.
Right. I reached out to Michael Taylor about this.
I'm sorry.
I reached out to Michael Taylor to come on the podcast. He's like, look, man, you're going to have to call Dustin Ford, or I forget who else he said, but he's like,
Ben Moore.
They're the little bit more social butterflies of the group.
Yeah, he's shy. Man, I tell you, I've been working on him, though. Like, every time I see him, I'm like the paparazzi. I'm taking pictures of him. I've got an album of him in my telephone. It's kind of creepy and weird, but I probably got over 100 pictures of him. And I'm starting to soften him up. He's coming out of his shell now. So, but yeah, that's the guy to call. And we have guys in different states. I mean, Dixie Firemanship is not just Mississippi Firemen. It's consisting of firemen in Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, and South Carolina. So we've got
y'all definitely grown.
Yeah. Well, and those guys that are even the ones that are spread out, I mean, they're the ones that really got it started. They all kind of came together at these conferences and started seeing each other and finding out that they were like-minded and like just a good group of dudes, and they wanted to,
right,
spread the word. So
And over the years, you've heard Dixie Firemanship still out there, and I remember the training of the Crossroads used to be I'd say the highest quality training you could get in the state. And it's crazy that started right there in Corinth, Mississippi. Most people don't even have never heard of Corinth. Like they never even heard of the Coca-Cola, where Coca-Cola started, or the what's the burger out there? I can't remember. It's a soybean burger, but they
Slug
called it something
burger,
else.
slug
Yeah.
burger. Yeah.
And the only reason I had ever heard of it is because I went fishing up on the 10 time one time at the state park up there, and that's the only reason I had ever heard of it. But it's crazy to me that this little started thing, or this little organization started from a couple guys in Mississippi wanting to really spread the word of what they saw was important, and now it really became the first stepping stone to so much more that has come to Mississippi just due to them. I mean, even with Jacob McVeigh and them doing their thing, and then McVeigh has now reached out to or spread down to the coast with Coastal Magnolia with Marcos Chacon and all those guys. And I was very fortunate. I got invited to their conference. So I'll be at Coastal Magnolia conference here in next week. Actually, that's crazy. It's next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it all started from a couple of guys from Mississippi just wanting to do more, and it spread like wildfire. I'd say throughout the state of getting other guys interested. And the cadre y'all have has been quite, like every one of y'all's cadre I've talked to, even ex cadre with like Parker Noblin and them, like they're all eat up with new tactics. They're all eat up with learning more about the fire service. The learning never stops. I mean, it truly does.
Well, and like you said, a lot of these guys are eat up with it, and it's because these guys don't really they haven't plateaued. They haven't man, you know what? I'm going to climb. You know what? I'm here. I'm comfortable here. This is it for me. Mm-mm. When they got to the top of the mountain, they started throwing dirt so they could climb higher. They continuously go out and find new and better ways and more efficient ways to do things.
And, I'm hoping that more departments figure out the funding aspect, I guess I'd say. But to me, like, if you're a training chief or you're a chief, your goal should be to send at least 2 firemen per year to some conference somewhere else, outside of Mississippi, outside of our local stuff. But let them go to Florida to what's the training conference right there in Pensacola? There's one.
County Fire Tactics. The
County Fire Tactics. You got several different conferences.
Water on Fire Conference.
Yeah. And then or go to a Fools conference like Small Town Fools over in Louisiana. You've got several lift conference. I mean, you got NAFC in Atlanta. There's so many different conferences that are not in New York, Pennsylvania, wherever, that are a little bit more local, but you can still learn from. And then you got like Magic City, what you were talking about earlier. They're really good at doing their truck company operations and stuff like that. And then if you don't necessarily want, let guys go to like One Bad Tour, Georgia Smoke Diver, and go learn their different scenarios that they do. Like we as a Mississippi Fire Department, we have to start getting outside of the comfort zone. It's not just a state fire academy thing anymore. We need to get out of that comfort zone and let guys go do that 5-class minimum to make their own style, and really start bringing better tactics to the state. And hopefully, I mean, even networking is a big thing in the fire service. And it's one thing I've learned really early on. I get to meet all these cool different people, but if I have a question, I have a big network to ask. Like I can call up these folks and be like, "Hey man, I heard this about this tactic. How's it been applied to your state or your department? And does it really truly work the way they are teaching it?"
Yeah, I have traveled to quite a few states and met a whole bunch of firemen, and I've got a buddy that's in Duluth, Minnesota, And I called him up one day because I had a question about like an inclement weather policy. How do y'all train in inclement weather? And he just laughed. He's like, buddy, we live in inclement weather. He said, today it's literally negative 30 degrees here. He's like,
No, thank you.
and so I said, well, hey, how do y'all do this? How do y'all do this? And he kind of walked me through and explained it, trying to keep stuff from freezing up or, destroying stuff. And that's what networking is about. Instead of me going out there and having to do, hey bud, how's this work? Have you a network of people that can help you out and answer questions for you.
And I point this out in quite a few episodes, but I remember when I got the idea to start a firefighter podcast. I started out with playing with social media, playing with my helmet cam. For the first time in my life, I had a bunch of helmet cam footage, and I was like, "This is awesome. Let's just see what it does." And so I started playing on TikTok, and my wife would go through and edit and put music to it, and then I was like, this is cool and all, and it kind of shows off Mississippi. And my original goal with my TikTok, and it still really is to highlight different departments' helmet cam footage. But it's harder to get helmet cam footage from people because not a lot of firemen in Mississippi carry helmet cams or GoPros or whatever.
That, and you have to worry too. There's departments that have like social media policies.
Right.
You're not allowed to take pictures on scenes, and so that's the more that administrative stuff.
And that's one thing my wife has been pretty well. She kind of butchers out or blocks out department stuff. I mean, like no identifiable information out of them. But you go from that, and I was like, but I want something that's going to help put Mississippi back on the map. I said, we've got so many great talents here. We really do. Of firefighters, of paramedics, tech rescuers. Like, I mean, you look at Russell McClure, which is one of the smartest guys I've ever met in tech rescue. Like, just knows a heap of knowledge. Him and Hayes Nix, which is now my training officer at Clinton. But you've got guys like that and Matt Hinkle, Michael Taylor that have really made names for themselves by their knowledge that they learned. And my whole goal was to highlight stuff. And, that's why I got into it. But I was like, I have no clue how to do a podcast. There's not really another podcast in Mississippi when it comes to firefighters. So I was like, well, who do I reach out to? And so I said, I tell you what, I've heard 2 podcasts that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'll reach out to them and see if they'll give me advice. So I reached out to Mike Goldstein with the Can Report, and I reached out to Corley Moore with the Weekly Scrap. And I was like, they're probably too busy. They're probably too popular to get back with a guy from Mississippi. Then a day, Mike Goldstein reached out. Within a week, Corley Moore reached out. And both of them gave me as much advice as I could have. And it just reaches out to the networking side of the firefighting. There's guys that can help you get where you need to go, where you want to be, and what you want to do.
Absolutely. A few years ago, I didn't know what a podcast was. What is this? But they've caught on, and they've been a really, really good tool on how to spread information and get things out there. So, man, I'm glad you've got one. This is great. So, I'm glad you because there's not a lot of them in Mississippi. You'll see a lot of them out of wherever, but you think, yeah, I'll learn some cool stuff. But these are different. Like we talked about earlier, like FDNY. If there was one out of New York, New York tactics don't necessarily work for Mississippi. I don't have the staffing. I don't have that type of demographic there where they have the high rises and we have, maybe 2 stories. So it's good that we have one for this state.
And hopefully we can get together here soon and prepare one more on a tactics-based podcast. So let's go over and break down different tactics for engine company, or let's do a ladder company kind of tactic podcast and how to apply it to Mississippi. And that'd be an awesome podcast for me to do, and just listen to and get a group of y'all. I mean, like if we can get a whole group of Dixie Firemanship to come together and just be like, let's do on first do engine tactics or engine company tactics, and just do something a little bit more instructor led versus necessarily just talking about the organization, but just to kind of show off that knowledge, you know?
And doing stuff like that, bringing people together. One of the things I went and taught at the Hot Springs Fire Conference one year, and they had a panel discussion, and one of our Dixie guys was in it, but there was another guy, and he looked like a fireman, and I didn't know who he was, and the guy's name is Garrett Rice, and he is with the city of the Colony, Texas, and that's how I learned about them and like the things that they do right. And that guy, I could have sat and listened to him for 4 days straight. Like there are some guys out there, especially um, from these different cities that do that kind of stuff, that can really bring a lot of good information to the table.
The shop talks to me are some of the best talks, because then you get a lot of ideas bouncing, and you can kind of hear a bunch of different perspectives on that situation or that tactic or whatever. And so I agree 100% with you. Like those panels are by far the best thing to learn from.
Right, and if you can make it, just like a comfortable setting, comfortable people usually talk more.
Right. And, I'm gonna be really fortunate here soon. Have you ever heard of Rick Hall?
Mm-hmm.
So Rick Hall and his original captain John Stegall are coming in here soon. Man, I can't wait. Like it's gonna be one of those. They're gonna come down to my studio, and we're all just gonna sit here and have a big shop talk about just growing up at Jackson and the different things. I mean, Jackson's has a little bit of tragedy in their history, and there's been some crazy stuff to happen.
Oh yeah, it's a crazy city, man. There's all kind of crazy stuff there.
I mean, from the calls we were in last night to, you never know what's going to happen.
That's right.
But before we wrap it up, I really want to go back to how to get in contact with Michael Taylor. Like, do you reach out to him on Facebook, email? How's the best way to get a hold of y'all?
So, like, if you'll Dixie Firemanship has a Facebook page, and you can send a message through Messenger to that, and our boss men, if you want to call them that, we'll get those messages. Or if you want to reach out to Michael Taylor personally, he's got his own Facebook and Messenger there too. I'd give the telephone number out, but I mean, I try not to do it without people. So I would say that's going to be your best way to go.
And y'all have an email at dixiefiremanship@gmail.com, is that right?
I think so. I've never emailed it.
I think that's it. So just so if anybody's listening, man, y'all reach out to Dixie Firemanship, and they can tailor, like you said, a program based on your needs, whether it's ventilation, forcible entry, or tactics. And there's a bunch of great guys there all across states, and you can have a bunch of good resources there. Before we started this podcast, I sent you 3 questions. And the first one was for our listeners, what is a good quote for the week?
Man, this is something that hit me one day, and like it's stuck with me ever since. And I learned it from the guy who used to be the chief of Mobile, Alabama. We got to talking about like dreams and aspirations and wanting to. When I was training officer, wanting to build like indestructible firemen, and he told me this. He said, "The mountains will inspire you, but the valleys will humble you." And it's all about, we see our goal and where we want to go. Those ups and downs to get there, man, they'll get you.
It's very true, and it is humbling just thinking about it. I mean, we all have those goals, and I tell you, my goal was to become a paramedic. Well, I'm in paramedic school, and it's humbling the heck out of me. So,
better you than me, buddy.
I started last week, and man, it's a very humbling experience. When I opened up the first chapter and turned on the audio book, and it said an hour and 45 minutes, and then the second chapter was 2 hours, I said, "Oh, gracious." And then I got to looking ahead, and it had a 250-page chapter. I said, "Oh, Lord, what have I got myself into?"
But man, I tell you, that's a big part of the future of the fire service. So I wish I'd have done it 20 years ago.
Well, I'm hitting that 31-year mark, and I got 4 kids and a wife at the house, and they're like, "Are you gonna be able to balance 2 departments, 4 kids, a wife, and paramedic school?" I said, "Well, we're gonna give it our best foot forward." So, uh, yep, I'm in it now. Ain't no backing out now. So, second question I have is, you've been to several conferences, you've been to several classes. What's the best conference or class that you feel a firefighter can take?
Well, I'm a little biased here. For a Mississippi fireman, I'm going to say engine company ops. And the engine company ops is a prereq to truck company ops. And engine company ops basically is some of the hows and the whys. You know, I ask a lot of people, man, what's your job as a fireman? And they'll always, oh man, to serve the city and this and that. But your job as a fireman is to go from rig to door and door to seat, and to do that as efficiently as possible. So in engine company ops, you learn some of the ways to do that. Not only to do that, but like, what am I going to carry with me? Is a pre-connect the line for every fire? Absolutely not.
Right.
So it goes into weapon selection and the type of line that you're going to take. So, and it's, a lot of people think it's a smoothbore class. It is not a smoothbore class. It is a flow water class. So, the other conferences that I've been to that I really enjoyed, again, training at the Crossroads to me was a turning point in my career.
Right.
Man, I got there and it was amazing. Um, the biggest conference I've been to, I guess, is going to be FDIC. I went with Hinkle a few years and learned a bunch of stuff, and that's where you really get the networking thing. All these guys that you see on your, like podcasts, and you see on the brass tacks and hard facts and your different Facebook reels, they're all there. Okay,
Right.
you can meet them and you can figure out, like, hey, this guy's a human being and he's no different than me. Puts his pants on one leg at a time, and some of them are real down to earth, and you can just talk to them and learn some different ways. And like, hey man, where did you learn this? Well, I learned it from here. And so you can see some different pathways to go down to gather some more knowledge.
And then the last question is, who do you recommend for Mississippi to be on the podcast?
Ooh, does it have to be just one? Because I've kind of got it
No,
narrowed down to three.
man,
Okay.
go ahead and send all 3 of them.
All right. Well, one of them is a Mississippi boy, but he is not in Mississippi anymore. One of them is going to be Mr. Kelly Bozarth. He's an instructor out at SERTC in Colorado. Me and Kelly work together here at the fire department, and hazmat's kind of my thing. Me and him were hazmat contractors on our days off, and it's like you were talking about earlier. People have their niches and their specialties. Well, we had people that were paramedics, and we had people that were this, and they were roping this and that. I didn't see anybody jumping up and down to do hazmat. So I was like, I'm going to do hazmat, and that's going to make me a more valuable team member. And when I got into it, and then I got to doing the contracting, I figured out not everybody had my best interest in mind. Me and Kelly got together and were like, hey, we need to get smarter about this. And so we learned a bunch, and then we started teaching. And he has graduated, and now he's teaching out at SERTC in Colorado. He is a very, very good man, and has done a lot for this state and a lot for the hazmat community in general. The next 2 are Mississippi guys. I would say Ben McMahon of Task Force 1. I could listen to that dude all day long. He's a good fireman. He's really, really good technical rescue guy, and he knows how task force stuff and deployments work, and just he's not only is he a good fireman, he is a good man. So, and the third one is going to have to be Michael Hogan. He's the deputy chief of Olive Branch Fire Department. He rode many, many years at the Memphis Fire Department and has seen some things. Came back home to Olive Branch, and now he's the deputy chief there, and he's making some good changes. So he's seen both sides.
Culture up there.
Oh yeah, yes it is.
And I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before, but I did an interview with Dane Spell. He's a guy from Reservoir Fire Department. I think he's from Greenville or Greenwood / Duck Hill area, Grenada area. I can't remember exactly. But he was driving all the way down here to Reservoir to be a fireman, and then he made the transition up there to Memphis. And man, he was just telling us about a little bit of the rookie culture and just how they operate up there, and it was crazy. And the first time I ever met Dane, we had Silence Martin come down to Jackson to do an extrication class, and he come down here and he was looking at it, and he had on his leather helmet with his shield, and it had pom poms all the way around it, and it was like glittery and had a big 7 on it. And he's on truck 7. I mean, just the most humiliating looking shield you ever seen in your life. and I asked him, I said, "What's up with the shield?" He said, "Well, that's my rookie shield because I had a leather helmet. I couldn't wear my own shield. I have to earn my shield, and they said I have to burn this shield completely up before I get my leather." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "What's it made out of?" He said, "They said it was cardboard, but I swear they put some oven degreaser or something on it because this thing won't burn up." He said, he said, "I stuck the helmet in fire just to see if it would burn up, and it still wouldn't burn up." And I was like, but
I saw one of those Memphis guys, and unfortunately, it made the news, and I think they got a little bit of trouble. But they had a smoke detector glued to the front of his so they could keep up with him.
But it's just it's a completely different culture up there in Memphis. They're a little bit more, I won't say established, but their culture bleeds back a long time, and it seems like they've kept that culture going for the most part. So, but man, I've really enjoyed it, Dustin. But hopefully we can get y'all back on here. Like I said, let's get a podcast together just about tactics or whatever y'all decide y'all want to do, and we'll get a couple of y'all on here and we'll just have fun with it.
Cool.
Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Man, I have. Just like I said, you've taken my podcast cherry. This is my very first one, and it's been a good time. So we got to get you an engine company out.
That's
We
my
got
class for next year.
good deal.
So.
Good
Before
deal.
we wrap it up, I gotta give a shout out to Firehouse Graphics. Called them last week, asked them to have me some stickers printed for a conference. They got it taken care of. J&J Designs for all their stuff that they give or send me for the people I interview. Mike Goldstein, Corley Moore, National Awards helped me out here lately. All the listeners and everybody else, I just want to say thank you for all the help and helping me get up and started. And hopefully we can keep this going. And the more and more further we make it, hopefully the more Mississippi gets put on the map. So we look forward to seeing y'all down at the Coastal Magnolia Conference next week. And if you don't get a chance to go to the conference, but you're down on the coast on Saturday, there's a Firefighter Cancer Support Network Run benefit 5K on the 16th as well. Hopefully we can see y'all down there. And till next week, we'll see y'all then.